What is some messed up drama that happened in your high school? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Our school sergeant, kind of like a guard but also handled keeping kids in line, was ex-army grumpy b****erd. Always pulled kids up on uniform stuff. His favorite line was, "If you don't do XYZ, you'll get my size 10 up your arse." Really laid it on thick, definitely scary. Well, I had the pleasure a few times of seeing him break the facade. Junkies hanging around outside the front gate, harassing the kids. He went ballistic at them and made sure we were fine after they left. A couple of times camping, he got super protective of us. Bushfire near a campsite, he was there putting it out and checked on everyone. Kid got bit by a snake or a stick through his hand. We were in a remote area, so ambulances would take forever. He put them in his ancient Land Cruiser and f***ing sent it. One of the kids swore he was going more than double the speed limit at times. After I left, one of the teachers was sleeping with one of her students. Got arrested. I heard through the grapevine he spent like an hour with the kid while the cops handled things. Complete opposite to your guy. Story 2. Not drama per se, but we had a kid drown during gym class. He couldn't swim, so the teacher had him swim laps in the shallow end with a kickboard while the rest of the class played water polo. Fast forward, and halfway through the polo match, someone noticed the kid wasn't swimming laps next us. A student got out of the pool and looked and saw him at the bottom of the deep end. The teacher dove down and pulled him up and started CPR, but it was too late. I'll never forget it. Very traumatizing for any person and such a heartbreak for the kid's family that lost him. Story 3. After Christmas break of my junior year in high school, our choir's accompanist was outed as a groomer and pedophile. The worst part was, because he had a voice comparable to Herbert on Family Guy, we had all made jokes about it for years. We, didn't laugh much about it after the reveal. Story 4. Supposedly, our principal was caught screwing a teacher at the school during school hours. His wife was also a teacher at the school and his daughter was a student. When the county school board held a meeting to address the situation, the teacher he'd been sleeping with during the previous school year, still not his wife, got in a fight with the new mistress. That's just one of many stories. Story 5. When I was in 11th grade, a dude brought in a bunch of brownies and cupcakes and shit like that. They were weed edibles. A bunch of students and teachers got surprise high. They backtracked it to the dude and he got in big time trouble. It was on the news and everything. Story 6. One of the girls in the junior high a couple of years below me was abducted. The whole community turned out to help in the search of the woods behind the girl's house. Kids from our school could volunteer as well, so a lot did just that. One of the people who was helping in the search was her next-door neighbor and, as it turns out, murderer. Pretty chilling to think a bunch of kids were side by side with the man who had killed one of us. Story 7. Civics teacher in middle school was openly friendly with one student. He was mid-20s at the time. When she went to high school, he transferred over to coach the girls' basketball team she was on. About 2 months after she turned 18, they started dating, and most people were just okay with it for some weird reason. I believe he had to quit the coaching job just to date her, but this was a while back. Knew there was something off about that guy since the first week in that class. Everyone considered him the cool teacher, but he was shit at his job and very picky-choosy with who he liked and actively put down the ones he didn't. Not saying that out of spite. I fortunately flew under the radar with the creeper because he gave me stay-away goosebumps and neck hairs. Also, her parents were okay with this happening. When they got questioned on it, they said he just believes in her and wants her to succeed. F***ing weirdos all around. Story 8. Former algebra teacher showed a class full of 8th graders his dick pic. He was a pedophile and he acted very creepy towards the girls in years prior. He was suspended a couple of years before the dick pic incident because he walked into the girls' locker room. Now he's not allowed to work in the entire school district. I saw him in a Walmart a couple weeks ago and he looked depressed as hell. He deserves it. Story 9. We had an undercover cop in our school. She was in my second period class. Real quiet and I never suspected anything. I think she was like 25 to 26 and blended in with a bunch of 4 15-year-olds. The kid who sat behind me was a typical stoner. One day, we get to class, and the principal comes on the loudspeaker. He mentions that we've had an undercover cop and they arrested 5 people. The kid who sat behind me was gone that day, but I didn't think anything of it. Later, I come to find out that he basically offered the undercover cop all kinds of drugs. Weed, shrooms, acid, etc. He planned to skip school that day and was tipped off by another student when the announcement was made. Cops had to chase him down and find him. The other 4 students were just in trouble for weed, but this kid gave her everything. She was going around to parties and asking everyone for drugs. Story 10. One of the science teachers, Mr. Green, would confiscate phones if he saw you using them in class. This was back in the flip phone days, so easy to look through. He was sending himself nudes the girls had taken of themselves, and he forgot to delete the text history on one of them. Girl told the parents, parents told the school. After a search of his phone and computer found dozens of naked girls, he was fired. We never heard what happened to him. Also, my 6th grade health teacher was also a gym teacher and always wore gym shorts. His nickname was Mr. Boner. He always gave us the creeps. My senior year, he was arrested at the mall when he was with a student at Victoria's Secret buying her underwear. She was 14. Brenton Unferth. Story 11. An art student, Jill, dated a fellow art student, Jack, for a couple of months. Sometime after they split, one of their mutual friends borrowed Jack's laptop for a project and found a hidden camera sex tape of Jack and Jill. The friend told Jill, who immediately took legal action against Jack. During the proceedings, it emerged that Jack had used the video footage as a reference to create a life-size nude torso bust of Jill, which he had recently submitted for a class project, without her knowledge or permission, of course. The next day, Jack returned to class, and the art teacher, having been informed of the discoveries by Jill, proceeded to fucking ream him out. This devout Baptist teacher called him every variant of voyeuristic you could possibly imagine, and basically renounced him as a student. Jack, who loved this teacher like a mother, was so upset and ashamed that he left school and refused to return. This in turn created some prime-time family drama for Jack, as his still-living grandparents had bequeathed him an inheritance of hundreds of thousands of dollars, on the sole condition that he had to graduate from that specific high school, private Baptist school. Story 12. I was approached by the school's gymnastics coach asking me to join the team after I successfully held that cross pose on the rings during a fitness evaluation. I decided to check it out because there were a number of cute girls on the team. I showed up at the practice and there was only one other male. Right off the bat, I picked up on this very weird vibe between the coach and all the females on the team. It was like they worshipped him, and they were his harem. I never went back. Senior year, the scandal broke when he impregnated one of the team members. Turns out he was fucking all of them, usually at the same time. I missed out. Story 13. There was a clique of sketchy-ass dudes. Everyone knew they were stealing cars, hustling hard drugs, being general creeps, etc. At some point, there was some other dudes who were the main weed sellers. They came from relatively well-off families, and the weed thing was really their only criminality. The first clique didn't like the competition and home invaded those other dudes and killed like 4 of them and took their money and weed. Only one was caught. He's still in jail, but the ones are still just out there, socializing like normal. Everyone knows what they did, but the prosecutors couldn't get the proof. It's weird seeing them around at pubs and shit, taking shots and chilling like they're not fucking monsters. Like is strange. Story 14. My favorite was this notorious for being a piece of shit guy broke up with his girlfriend. She found out he was cheating on her, so she wanted to fight him. After school, everyone is telling this guy not to fight her for obvious reasons, but he agrees. She kicks the shit of this guy, and he manages to break free and run away, into the back seat of his mom's car. That right, he called him mom to back him up. She starts shit-talking all us high school kids from her car while he cries in the back seat. Super weird. Later that year, I guess in an attempt to get some street cred back, he agrees to be a getaway driver with his mom's car for a stabbing. Can't remember who did the stabbing now, but the victim's brother was there and jumped on the front of the car and started trying to punch through the windshield as they drove off. Both of the kids in the car got arrested the same day and the victim recovered. Ended up working with the brother later. Super cool dude. Story 15. Genius dude, who is now a Caltech prof, was bullied mercilessly by a bunch of jocks, and the leader was a spoiled kid with a Porsche. This was 1985. A rumor started that someone fucked with this guy's car, and as days went by, it was clear that it was so bad the car was totaled. But not a lot of folks knew what happened. I was pretty good friends with this kid. Rob was always nice to him and his brain. Both parents worked at NASA JPL. Fascinated me. Turns out Rob had managed to break into the guy's car at night at his house with a Slim Jim and left something tucked under the driver's seat. It was a tightly sealed quart ball jar with a dead rat, 4 of hydrogen peroxide and 3 of water. The chemical putrefied the dead rat into a horrific stank liquid, and it also intensified the aroma produced, as Rob said, by an order of magnitude. Rob said that anyone within 20 feet would puke uncontrollably, and the smell would persist years. I think I'm the only one who knows why. A few days later, the jar exploded all over the car, and the smell was so bad that they had to junk the car for parts. Pretty sure the kid got another Porsche from daddy. But the fact that Rob destroyed an entire Porsche and humiliated this dipshit for less than $5 is still legendary in my mind. I kept the secret until almost 20 years later. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit a like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.